Hey,
Hey Liam,
can you hear me okay?
I
Yes.
can hear you perfectly. How are you doing?
Yes, good, thank you. Really sorry I was late. I had a interview just before and it ran over, and I was, yeah, those are hard to be like, "Oh, I've got, sorry, I've got a jump. I'll quickly tell you next steps."
Yeah, that's fine. These things happen, especially when we all live pretty hectic lifestyles and we try and cram quite a lot in. I know I do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it gets a bit complicated at times. But yeah, thank you for coming on board on this. I genuinely appreciate it.
Yeah, no.
Um, First of all, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah,
Good.
not too bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Happy it's Friday.
yeah. Where in the UK? Yeah,
I'm in London and
London.
in Hackney Wick, right
Ah, cool.
by the Olympic Park. Yeah. How
Ah,
about
cool.
you?
I know it. Right. So for those that don't know you, just introduce yourself then and tell us a little bit about what it is you do.
My name is Liam. I'm VP of Marketing here at Cognism.
Yeah.
So I head up mainly the demand and content teams here at Cognism. And Cognism are a sales intelligence B2B data provider. I'm basically responsible for getting that out to market and creating demand for the product.
Yeah. So the what I want to get out of you in this session really is talk about your role in particular as VP of marketing, a little bit about Cognism, and then also the industry as a whole, really, if that's okay
Mhm.
with you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
sounds good.
So talk us a bit about because you've been with Cognism quite a few years now, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Yeah,
So I've been here for 4.5 years now. Yeah.
4.5 years. What sort of challenges do you face in your role? A, as just generally as the VP of marketing as you would in any sort of business, and what specifically challenges do you have with a sales platform in the SaaS market?
Yeah. Good question. Like, I suppose, what sort of challenges do we have sort of going
Yeah,
to market? Yeah.
yeah,
So I think the main thing really is that it's a super competitive, so competitive. It's a really crowded market.
yeah,
We obviously have like the likes of Zoom Info who are like right at the top and been in the game for a long time, and then we've got some really other big competitors,
yeah,
especially ones coming up like Apollo, who are really powering through at the moment, and then there's also Lucia and Seamless as well.
yeah,
So I think part of like the real challenge is being able to cut through the noise, and show how you sort of like stand out in
yeah,
comparison to those competitors, as everyone's vying for the same thing, right? To say that they're the best data provider and they've got the best contact data quality, and that that you can be their sole, we can be their sole provider.
yeah,
So I think that's really been like the biggest challenge. Like the fortunate part of the solution is that data is needed. It's a must have for a lot of people. It's almost a commodity. So that side of it, there's product market fit. People want the product,
yeah,
but you've got to be able to position yourself and show that you can do it best, and that you have the data that is reliable. It's also a product though that people can test easily,
yeah,
get immediately frustrated with easily. You call two numbers that don't connect, or an email that bounces, and it's an immediate frustration. So um, you can earn trust as much as you can lose it quickly.
yeah,
So um, I think all of those things together is really what makes it difficult. And I think that you have to be able to then be able to show value
mm,
beyond the data. The data has to be exceptional. It has to
yeah,
be the very best, but you've got to be able to show value beyond that as well.
yeah. How do you think you at your team at Cognism have stood out then? Because you're doing a great job. You're one of the leaders at the top. So how have you managed to keep that in place and stay there? Because obviously, like you say, there's competition coming left, right, and center.
Mhm.
How do you stay in that? Do you concentrate on what the other people are doing, or have you got what advice would you give to other people that are kind of looking to establish themselves as an authority while there's a lot of noise going on around them?
Yeah. So I think always have a keen eye on your competition,
Yeah,
but you can't be led entirely by what they're doing. You've got to be trying to think about what you can
yeah,
do differently. I think we've sort of done, and I think has gone has been massively to our benefit is running like a very heavy demand gen motion where we give away all of our content ungated and easy and available to access. And we put a lot of effort into that content and getting external opinion and working with subject matter experts, which gives us another bit above the data, right? This isn't just contact data that's like that you can use. This is also how to action it and how the best people suggest that you action it and give people content and value to go away and do that and improve either their sales motions or their marketing motions. And I think that gives us a little bit of an edge over competitors, and something that I think I'm super proud of that we've done, and I think it's one of the things that gives us, and customers have commented on it, that there's extra support beyond the product itself. I think we've also had a little bit of an edge in that a lot of our competitors are US based, and we're the one of the major and probably the biggest doing it now in Europe and EMEA, and that gives us an edge, I suppose, not only globally but also in the EMEA market as well, as we sort of like stand out and are sort of leading the way there as well.
Yeah, you mentioned like the US and Europe. I see many differentials between the two, especially like SaaS companies as a whole. There's a lot coming out of the States, but Europe kind of falls behind a little bit on that.
Mm-hmm.
Have you got any opinion on why you think that is?
It's interesting. I think there's something. I think industry kind of perpetuates itself, right? So I think that's like part of it to me, that there's been huge SaaS successes. I mean, right back to Salesforce, right, in the States, and I think that perpetuates talent, inspires people, and grows that and the whole industry. I think. And then I think that was the same for data, right? DiscoverOrg, before they merged with Zoom Info, they're all based out of the States, and I think that idea grew there, right, and grew from that region. So I think that's part of it. But I do think that Europe is catching up, and I do think part of what actually gave us an edge at the beginning was that we didn't have to play catch up on GDPR. We were building a business that had to start with that as our foundation. And that was at the beginning like a huge selling point for us. So I think there's always ways that European companies can worm their way in, and we can start to sort of grow and match the US too in building out SaaS companies in Europe as well.
Yeah. As the GDPR side, like you say, it was a key factor in onboarding new clients, would you say? And especially, in the European market, was that a big part of your success right early on, would you say? Or?
Yeah, I think that was huge. Like, it was a big selling point then. I think we're all like sort of caught up. I think a lot of companies, a lot of our competitors have sort of parity in and how they handle compliance now. But I think at the beginning, it was a major selling point for us. Was we were able to say that, we straight away were born in a country where GDPR was active legislation, and we were right from word go, had relationships with ISO, and were like making sure and sticking to our compliance and having a strict process that they were aware of and that we followed. And I think that gave us a huge advantage.
Yeah. How do you think that's made it difficult for people like Apollo and stuff like that? Well, the American companies, because it's a minefield, And how do you think it's impacted them and their model to kind of implement that side of it?
Yeah, and I think they've had to go about and actually build out those processes to make those relationships with the regulators in the same way, and obviously the trust of customers that despite the fact that they're maybe not European based or like originated, that they also do understand and take the like GDPR super seriously.
All right, you mentioned a moment ago about your demand strategy, well, demand generation strategy. Talk us a bit through that and how you see SaaS companies are implementing that, because you mentioned Salesforce and you look at the companies like HubSpot. In a way, they're more, with their buying strategy, their acquisition strategy, they're becoming more like media companies first and SaaS companies second. What are
Mhm.
your thoughts on that? Because obviously, it's putting out content and creating demand is a huge part of growing business in a heavily competitive market. So that's that has to be um, sort of in their acquisition plan as a whole for many SaaS companies.
Mhm.
So talk to me how you're obviously doing that with Cognism.
Mhm.
How are you implementing that further down the line? What's your plans on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think SaaS companies being media companies at the same
Mm,
time and creating what we call the media machine
mm,
is like essential, like for like all SaaS companies now,
yeah,
really to be able to like generate demand and like play in a field where you're actually putting out content that like brings in new business. I think going forward, we're just continuing trying to expand it. I think
mm,
the thing that that being becoming a true media company is that you can't ever stop or rest on your laurels. You can't be doing the same content,
yeah,
reframing it, um, creating an ebook and just reskinning it. You actually have to constantly be thinking like a media company would, which
yeah,
is going out, finding the stories, writing about what people are interested in, interviewing and talking to the best people, and actually thinking and following the trends on content and what's the best way to engage
mm,
um, different audience levels, all the way down from your regions to your decision makers to your influencers and your advocates and users. So you constantly have to think about that. And we've built a content like strategy and playbook to do that, which we started on 2 years ago,
yeah,
called the Easy Mode Framework, which helps allow us to have like a continuous storytelling that we
yeah,
can build and work on. I think there's even more we could do with it, and we've got to continue to do. I think as you look on like LinkedIn and everywhere, there's this huge element of community now,
mm,
and building out and creating communities and reinforcing and holding on to your audiences,
yeah,
which we try and do in value loops, which is like where anywhere we can get people to subscribe, like podcasts or live shows or
yeah,
newsletters and things like that. So I think that's where we really want to go next. Now we've got our narratives and stories that we follow, is just trying to keep people coming and be the place that people
yeah,
come
yeah.
back to.
You use a lot of events on your strategy as well, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, do a lot of we do a lot of virtual events, but we're
mm,
actually starting to build out and do some more in-person ones as well now.
yeah, yeah,
It hadn't actually been a key part of our strategy first and foremost.
yeah. You've got. I mean, I know a lot of the team. Whether it's because you're a SaaS company or what, there's a lot of your team that are active on social. How do you think that plays a part in driving traffic?
Yes, I think that's huge. And
Yeah,
I'm something again that I think is we're really happy with, because I think
mm,
it's culture led.
yeah,
I know you can buy tools like Gagalamp, everyone's social, to try and get people promoting themselves on
yeah,
social media, but I actually think the hardest part is actually making it cultural.
yeah,
We actually had a new starter start only this week, and he did a post and he was like, "Well, I just thought I'd start posting because everyone else is," and it just
right.
seems the right thing to get involved. And I think it's been huge for us. Some of our biggest campaigns and things that did really well have come from the personal branding and people
Yeah,
posting. If we look at Alice, our CMO, she did her diary of a first time
mm,
CMO, and that is one of the most successful campaigns we've done yet. And that was all from really organic posting and
yeah,
pushing out Alice's profile. The whole book is predicated on her LinkedIn post. So I think it's huge. It's free. It's a free audience.
Yeah.
We can reach, and also the best thing is it benefits all of the employees as well.
Yeah.
Create networks. Some of them go on to find other jobs.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great. It's definitely a great resource because the reality is people are not going to stay with you for a lifetime.
Mhm.
So you are future proofing them while, in essence, a great ROI strategy for the business.
Mhm.
How is that something that's happened organically within Cognism, or is that something that you looked at early on and thought this is a good thing to do?
Yeah, it was actually very much a conscious decision
Yeah.
in the end. Yeah. We started by we wanted to like work out how to. I suppose we're big fans of Refine Labs, and Chris Walker at the time, and everything he was doing, posting on LinkedIn, and we were like, we need a subject matter expert for sales. And it's like specifically, sales is our biggest audience. We need a subject matter expert. So we went out and we worked with this sales coach, Ryan Razor, who owned his own cold calling verification company as well.
Yeah.
So he was a good natural fit with Cognism, and we started posting content from his account and working with him on content as well, and trying to pushing him out as our subject matter expert. And it really worked. Like, it was great, and has an external relationship, and he didn't stay with us forever. We worked with him for about a year, and then we've moved on, and now we work with other influencers like Morgan Ingram in sales. But I think it made us all realize that we can work with people externally, which is great. So that gives us some benefit, but actually internally as well, we could build out our own influencers as well. So we all made a commitment to post once a week when doing the marketing leadership. And then we worked with Dave Bentham in our sales development leadership, and like started getting him to post, and we sort of worked it out. And now James, our CEO, is posting as well. He's caught the bug, and I think it's just been a gradual cultural shift, but started intentionally with us trying to create audiences there.
Yeah. When did you start seeing it gaining traction, when you thought, right, this is definitely a good strategy and it's working?
Yes, I think 2022 was a big year for us. So we kind of, like, in the marketing side, jumped on the bandwagon of this lead gen to demand gen because we were doing it, we could talk about it, and the topic was just on fire. So we gained huge momentum with it. And then I think really 2023 was less exciting in the sense that we'd already got the big buzz from it, but it was actually the year of when it really solidified, because we had the book launch, which went really well. James started posting, that's done really well. And now I feel like it feels ingrained. But I think 2022 was the year that we were like, oh, we're onto something here.
Right. So let's talk me through your role then within Cognism, how your day-to-day looks.
Yeah, so it's been pretty varied. So I think, and maybe my role is slightly untraditional to other VP roles, really. So I started, I think if I go back when I started, it kind of gives it some context. I started like back when Cognism, we had like a marketing team of like 4 people, and it was myself, Alice, who's the CMO, and then we had a content person, and we also had randomly a video manager who's still with us now. Does all our amazing videos, but it was a kind of a luxury hire at the time when we were such a small team. And so I've sort of worked and built out the team since then. And I really was from a demand gen background, so took on building out the demand gen team. Since then, I've taken on content team as well, and also have customer marketing and our sort of what we call marketing enablement, which is like website design and video as well. And then I report directly into Alice, who's CMO, and then we also have other functions, which is our paid media function, which is separate actually to us. So it kind of works almost like an agency in-house, and then we have a product marketing function as well. So I'm kind of across everything at the moment, and I think I've, like my career, kind of been in a very sort of like generalist role. Alice was on maternity for the last 4 months, so just been covering her role as well, which has made it like exceptionally
Challenging.
more yeah, it's exceptionally challenging, but even more generalist. And now I was covering everything for that period, and she's just got back this week, so I've like some kind of like settling back into the role going forward. But I imagine that now we'll sort of like get back, and I'll be more involved, I suppose, again back in the content and demand gen side. So it's hard to say day to day exactly what I'm doing. But I'm covering lots of bases. But I think if I'm going back to the role really before mat leave and all of that side, I was I'm across kind of like the SEO strategy heavily, the demand gen strategy, our paid media strategy as well, working with the paid acquisition team. And basically how we implement all of those things, like our SEO strategy, and like how we've got very much like a BOFU strategy there, what we call money keywords, and it's really about demand capture. And the demand generation strategy is huge on this demand creation piece, which we have separate sort of content team working on that as well. And then obviously as well now being like focusing more on our customer marketing side, which we've really focused on sort of advocacy and expansion as the key pillars, but we want to build out retention and community as well.
Yeah, no, excellent. No, the community side is definitely a huge growth. So look, so say for example, you've obviously gone from taking it from a small team to a huge team. You've obviously trialed and errored many things of what works and what doesn't. What advice would you be to like say a small business owner who's looking to start allocating money at at the marketing side, but doesn't really know where to start? What would you be, say for example, so the onboarded a CMO or something like that? How would they tackle it from such a small budget to say where you are now? How would they get there?
Yeah, that bit is like that scrappiness at the beginning is so hard, and like learning where to place your bets. I think, but I would really like always say that there's like the determination to do everything so quickly at the beginning, and that's the bit that you want to avoid doing. I prefer. I think some of the things that we did early on at Cognism, when we were a small team, was just pick a few things and do them really well, and know what those things we should be doing. There, there's some marketing tactics that will work and channels that will work so well for other companies, but just won't work well for you. And you could you could easily watch Cognism, for example, and be like, oh, I want to replicate their strategy, but it might just not be the right thing for you, right? So that would be my first thing, is to go out, and if I was a founder, or if I was in that position, I'd go out, speak to the market, speak to prospects, speak to customers, and find out where they are and where they spend their time, and then try and align the strategies that then we would run to that. So whether if we're looking at like a smaller like a product to SMB that and it's like faster sales cycles and things like that, and I'm going to be focusing on a lot of demand capture strategies that I can capture that existing demand to begin with, before looking at how I can create demand and where I would do that. But if we're looking at longer sales cycles and enterprise marketing, then I'm going to be thinking more about how I can really do that strategically, and maybe work, I don't know, in events and build out an ABM program from the beginning, from the ground up. So I think to that founder, it's just to give that time and like to really figure it out and not get distracted by all of the things that are out there. It's like first thing to be straight away like, let's create a podcast, and it's like podcasts are great, but like we've got and they normally will work out, but it might not be the first thing that you want to do, despite the fact that a lot of people are doing them.
So you said earlier that you've analysed you analysed the competition. So there's obviously quite a few that you've seen pop up and disappear. Where did you think they went wrong, and where business and marketing generally go wrong that kind of goes against them?
Yeah, I actually think the main thing here, like it is all in the go-to-market. So like if the product's the same, we know that there's like it works, it says it's got product fit, then everything's gonna falling down on the go-to-market. And it's complicated to sort of like know exactly where some things break down. I think sometimes it's culturally, internally. I think I think other places, I think it could be entirely in the messaging and positioning that you've come forward with. I think, and the pricing and packaging that what I find interesting is, especially in our market, with like having the product-led growth acquisition strategy that some companies run, and then like ZoomInfo and us have been traditionally done the sales-led growth strategy, is just that you have the problem of either way, right? So you could be sales-led growth, you build up your enterprise, now you've got to find some way to shift and move better into the SMB space and do that in a like more business efficient way. But then if you start off with product-led growth and SMB and with your lower price points, you've now got to find some way of moving up enterprise, which everyone finds really which is really difficult as well. And that challenge then is faced by everyone. And I think that in our space, I think that's going to be the biggest thing, to see how each company faces that, and how they can like shift their go-to-market motions to meet the customer's needs there. But yeah, I suppose thinking about other things that can go wrong, I think, to me, like there are some things that you can get certain distance with, but maybe aren't scalable. So, and I do think that is things like lead gen. And we had this ourselves, and we had to make that pivot. We were running tons of lead gen, like a program of getting lots of different content downloads and leads, and we were finding that the conversion rate from those leads to close one was terrible, really. And it wasn't scalable. We could generate thousands and thousands of more leads, but it wouldn't have got us anywhere. We would have burnt ourselves out, and that model wouldn't have grown. And I think, but it got us really far to begin with. And that's the points where you have to shift and you have to look. It's like the same idea that you've got a huge data set. If you're a data company, you can keep hiring endless SDRs and just call, but eventually that capacity, it will hit its ceiling, and then it's not going to work for you. So I think those are the decisions you have to make along the way, when you stop kind of copying what everyone else is doing and start to look at internally at what's working or not.
Yeah, I mean, those, you're talking about pivoting and analyzing what's working and what's not. I think a lot of companies go wrong where they like you say, they have a strategy that works initially, gets them to a certain point, and then it stops getting them to that next point. And rather than pivoting and adjusting, they end up sticking to that strategy and causing themselves a hell of a lot of problems, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And like some of the most important, I think, points is when we like made those big pivots. And no matter how scary they seem, and like you have no idea really how you're gonna execute them at the point that you've made the decision you're gonna do it. Like it's essential, because it's like do or die at that point. Even if the die turns out to be a really slow declining die.
It's still a death nonetheless, isn't it? How do you implement? Because obviously you over your duration you would have got loads of customer feedback. How do you implement that in terms of getting that feedback properly, and implementing that to changes within the software and your market? How you get it out to market even more.
Yeah, so we have various different ways of getting the feedback. So we have the customer marketing team the product marketing team, run like a voice of the customer program, where they speak to customers and get that feedback and push it back through into the whole marketing team, provide us information specifically on segments, what people are looking for, where they are getting their information, what they're listening to, what they like about current Cognism content, what they like currently about the product, use cases, how they use it internally, and like features that they'd look for or would want. So that side's really useful. Then we have customer marketing team who are also just running the advocacy plays, which also give us those feedback in terms of case studies. So we get it's different feedback because it's positive, but like you get loads of information from those as well, and all of the review process that we run then and get where we get customers obviously to give GP reviews. We also get them. We also have a customer champions program where we can ask for which we run through Fearlo. So a customer can sign up and they'll get rewards for taking certain actions for us. So then we can get information and feedback from them. We can ask for specific feedback in exchange for rewards. And then we use other tools as well, like Winter, to survey our market, which is Winter is like less about getting the feedback from your customers, but more about from your general ICP. And we build out surveys. So often we'll ask here in like marketing strategies, we're launching like a survey now to enterprise to ask, like, to look at how they research data providers, the information they look for, the things they need. We've also looked at what people want when they research via Google, for example, so that we can find out, so we can make sure our pages, our SEO pages, are matching the intent of what they're looking for and how we can best serve them. And we have other tools as well that we've recently purchased called User Evidence, which helps us survey our customer base again and like create assets from that actually, so we can use those assets to help drive further demand. So we collect all of that and then kind of like work it back depending on what it's for. So like work it back either into the content strategy or feed it, if it's from product marketing, feed it back up into product to then affect the product strategy as well. But I'd say we do a lot of research, like, just constantly speaking, like finding some ways of getting information from customers that we can then like use to influence the content strategy mainly, which has been key. I also take away some snippets from just joining sales calls sometimes when specifically when I'm invited, but I know the team do it as well, and also using Gong, and just listening to customer calls and then taking the information that we can get from there, like what people are saying on disco calls seems to be like sometimes the best way to get the information, to be honest.
Have you had that strategy from very early on then?
That has been a slow build out. And I think we've got way better at it. I think there's been that's hard to do straight away. I think getting on actual calls with customers as well. Everyone comes out here and just says, speak to your customers. That's so difficult. Everyone, it's so hard to get case studies. It's so hard to run a voice of the customer program, and what we've got is not perfect as well. We find that really difficult. I think using tools like survey tools, it's made it a lot easier for us, like getting with and user evidence. That's really worked, and using Gong and stuff like that, and and just speaking to the sales team, which is like really your best and easiest resource a lot of the time. But I think sometimes that's why going to the call recordings is slightly better, because you can kind of hear it from the horse's mouth. There's no interpretation in it. So we've got way better at it, and I don't want to be another person who's just like speak to your customers like it's easy, because it's not, and it can be challenging to find the time to do it properly.
Yeah, absolutely. It does sound a bit cliche when when you say it, but it's difficult because you're invading on their time a lot of the time, and it's a difficult strategy to actually implement.
Yeah, and implement and get the information and then do something with it. Just sit on sheets or on video recordings But I think it comes from like a concerted effort to be customer-led and data-led. So it's like, before we make a decision, we'll do these things or we'll check these things. And then I think that's the only way you can make it work, is like building it into a process.
You mentioned you've acquired a few companies now, haven't you?
Yes, so Mailtastic and Casper, the two companies,
What's your thought process behind that, and what's your acquisition strategy moving forward?
So Casper is a PLG like data provider as well, and Chrome extension. So there's kind of a synergy there. It also provides gave us a stronger foothold in the European data market because it's a French company. So I think that will help us with having a PLG motion alongside the SLG motion, as I say, to then be able to land and expand into globally and grow our customer base. And Mailtastic as well is really part of like trying to move into, I suppose, having more tools within that marketing space. So it's an email signature marketing tool. So allow people to use their email signatures as their best sort of marketing channel. So I think that's all ways again of like actioning and getting and growing like actioning data and like actually running your go-to-market motion. So I think that's always the next step, isn't it? So it's like getting the best data possible, and then also finding ways to like action it and grow it, and your go-to-market motion is better.
How did those deals come about then? Did you go out and seek them, or did they come to you, or was it a bit of?
I'm not 100% sure on those things. That would be definitely down to James and the C-suite. But yeah.
That's okay. So talk us through the market then, because obviously you've been in it 5 years now, nearly.
Yes. Just short. Yeah.
Have you seen it change in that 5 years, and where do you see it going? What big changes do you see coming?
I think it's hard to say because I think it's definitely got more advanced and more competitive, which I love. Like, I think at the beginning, like then we had Zoom was the biggest, and it was like they were the biggest brand name, well known, and now I think we have a truly competitive environment, which is really cool. And like now before we would always be like Zoom info, and now there's like Apollo, and there's lots of other like scary competitors out there who are like making it, applying the pressure and making it. So I think that's been the biggest change. And then I think as we grow going forward, I think that's hard to sort of like determine, I think, what will be the next big thing, really. I think one thing that is different is US and the UK specifically is when Cognism started, like the whole idea of like a data provider like this wasn't actually that well known in the UK. The US is a bit better, but like there was actually a little bit of explaining about the solution. In that we still have that in a few of like the European markets, but like it wasn't like, well, now everyone knows about B2B data providers like this. Everyone expects to be able to have a sample, trial the data, test it. They're aware of every competitor as well, so they'll switch between you and they'll try different ones out. So I think that is what's going to be interesting going forward. How users like switch between data providers, what makes you sticky, what makes you stay, what makes you number one. And then I think always in this space is going to be regulation and what changes happen there, and see where that drives the market going forward. But I'm never quite sure what's next on there.
Well, that's what makes it interesting, really. It's funny you say the competition thing. It's in some ways it's like nerve-wracking, and then in other ways it pushes you and encourages you to do more, I think. So it's that there's probably a phrase for it, but it's keeping you in that limbo of something pushing you and something holding you back, going, oh, what next? Liam, thank you so much for all that information. It's and coming on the call. I genuinely appreciate it. This will be going out on LinkedIn, but then it will also be going out on YouTube and Spotify and things like that. How can people get a hold of you if they want to get in touch, and get in touch with Cognism as a whole as well?
Best way to get in touch with me is probably on LinkedIn. We spend far too much time on that platform. And I try and be as responsive as possible. So please do feel free to message me, and I'll get back. And then in terms of Cognism as well, like in fact, or like feel free to reach out to anyone that's active on LinkedIn. we're there as a means to contact and channel as much as we are to do our posting. But also, if you want to, see a demo of Cognism or trial it out, then yeah, please come to the website and just submit the form, and we'll be in contact as soon as possible.
Perfect. Thank you, Liam. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Leeroy. It was great. Cheers.